A pet chimpanzee gets a bad case of the rabies and starts killing a bunch of rich kids at a fancy house in Hawaii. Pretty simple, but you know, it would actually be really nice to have a fun new animal attack movie to talk about, so join us as we discuss Primate. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Ben, no.
Is this a Spider-Man quote? Are we doing Uncle Ben's death? What are we doing right now? I will avenge you, Ben. I will use my power responsibly, as you foretold.
Yeah, as you foretold, the thing Spider-Man always says.
Yes, that's exactly what he always says when Uncle Ben snuffs it. Welcome, everyone. This is a horror movie podcast. Today, we are going to be discussing a movie from earlier this year, although it is technically listed as a 2025 movie, but there's always a few of these that sort of technically count as the previous year because of festivals and whatnot, but it's a 2026 movie as far as we're concerned, and that is Primate. The Chimp, the killer chimp movie. So this got a little bit of attention back in January when it was coming out, and for whatever reason, I think we had different release dates. I think I got it like a month later than you, so we couldn't do it when it came out. So we're finally getting to it now. We're kind of catching up on some of these 2026 movies from earlier in the year. And we'll start spoiler-free as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get into the spoilers. And if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, hit the like button. Helps out a bunch if you do. And of course, you can support everything over at Patreon and help keep the show coming. But I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So, as per usual, when we're catching up on something that came out a few months ago, there's a high chance that you saw it anyway when it came out because you're a nut job, and like, because I don't like risking that, Tim, because I worry that if the movie isn't great, I'm going to be miserable having to watch it a second time. So I tend to just wait until I know that we're going to be reviewing it. So that's where I stand.
I mean, that's fair. I usually only try to see stuff that, you know, I'm interested in, or, you know, looks like it'll be fun or something. Like, yeah, because with that in mind, like, yeah, that's why I didn't go see like Strangers Chapter 3 by myself,
sure.
knowing that we would, or Five Nights at Freddy's 2 or something.
Yeah, you definitely have seen some stinkers in advance though, and then had to watch them again.
That has happened.
It's definitely been an occurrence. But yes, but I guess before we get to your thoughts on the movie, did you see Primate already? Was this a second viewing?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
This was my second time.
Okay, so this is the Too Chimp, Too Furious for you then.
It's my second time opening the cage, as it were.
Eloquently put, Tim. Eloquently
There's
put.
a cage in the movie that gets opened.
Yes, I'm aware. Yes, I get the tenuous reference. Yes, so welcome to Island of the Ape, singular ape, and it's only Hawaii, so it's not a planet. So, yes, that was a bad joke. I admit it's a bad joke. Look, I'm not bringing my A game here. I have to admit, we in the last few weeks we had almost 2-hour epics for both Obsession and Backrooms at the time of recording. Regardless if this is good or bad, I just don't see Primate having the 2-hour epic, like, deep discussion that those movies warranted. So,
Sure.
Yeah, premise of this is quite simple. There's a pet chimp, rich family of a pet chimp. It gets rabies, starts killing people. There's your plot. That's the movie. Not much more to add, really. We'll get into it, of course. But yeah, Tim, what did you think of Primate?
Yeah, I gotta admit, I kind of love this movie. I don't think it's like great, but to me, this is something that, I don't know, it's just kind of like dumb and fun and just really like delivers on what it promises. Like when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, cool, Killer Chimp movie. And then you know what this gave me? Cool, Killer Chimp movie. Like, you know, it doesn't necessarily like go above and beyond. So like I wouldn't say it's like, oh my God, it's great or what or anything. But, you know, I just kind of wanted like a dumb chimp attack movie, and this is what I got. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty fun. It starts off with a bang, and then pretty quickly gets into it. And then yeah, it doesn't really overstay its welcome. It has like some pretty decent, gore and attacks and stuff. Yeah, so I mean, I've probably talked about this before, or certainly people that have seen our other like animal attack reviews, but this is kind of like a subgenre that I'm actually like I really like, which I don't sound maybe it might sound a little messed up because it's like, oh yeah, like I don't know, I like animal attack movies, which is something that can happen in real life. So I don't know if that's like a little demented or something.
I mean, you could also be hacked with an axe by a psychopath in real life. It doesn't sound weird if you say like slasher movies.
Sure. Yeah, but I mean, there's usually a bit more of like a fantastical element to it, but where like this, it's like, I mean, we've seen the news stories and documentaries, like chimps attacking people are a real thing, which and it's kind of funny because you mentioned like the rabies, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just really funny to me that they like decide to give him an excuse for going crazy and attacking everyone when it's like, oh no, like you read all these chimp attack stories and like they don't need a reason. Like chimps just are like bastards that once they mature, they will turn on you eventually. And then yeah, so I like animal attack stuff, and I feel like I'm a little off my game today because I'm quite tired, but so apologize for my little less than normal perfection whilst speaking.
Wait. When's the perfection happen? Like, what episode was that?
I'll see the previous, 782 or however many we've done.
Oh, all right, okay. I don't know if perfect means what you think it means, Timothy, but go on.
You start with Hellboy the Crooked Man. I was very eloquent on that one. I know. But yeah, but no, I love animal attack stuff, like especially chimp stuff. I don't know, there's something very like scary and primal about it that really gets under my skin, and I think makes like a good fodder for horror movies. I probably told this story before, but I mean it's definitely appropriate for this episode. But there's a while where I was volunteering at an animal sanctuary, and they had all types of like different like animals that were like former pets, or since we're in Los Angeles, there's a lot of like animals are used for movies or whatever, and they had a section for chimps, and they were like it's kind of sad, but they were like chimps that I guess like were experimented on, or were from labs and stuff that obviously didn't have the best life and stuff, but they were terrifying like whenever you would walk by them, because first of all, they're so much huger than they look in like movies and stuff, because a lot of times in movies, especially if they're using a real chimp, it'll have to be like an adolescent one because they're too dangerous when they're full grown and stuff, but they usually tend to be like kind of smaller and cuter. But then when you see like some of these full grown chimps, they're like huge and they're basically all muscle, so they're just like jacked. So it's just like these hairy Vin Diesels or something just like staring you down. But it was so weird whenever you'd walk by the cages, because again, they had a hard life, and they really didn't like humans. So they would just walk back and forth and like stare at you, through the glass. And it was such like an odd feeling knowing that like, oh, this thing just wants to break out of here and just kill me so bad. Like, and not the way, like another wild animal might want to kill you for like, food or something. Like this is just like, is such a visceral level. It just hates me and just wants to escape and like rip off my own arm and beat me to death with it. Is always such like an eerie feeling.
I can relate.
Walking by a oh. Are you talking about most of the Patreon members?
Oh, no, I was thinking of Connor, but there you go.
Oh. Good one. But yeah, no, I think chimps are a lot of fun. And so yeah, like I don't know. Again, you kind of mentioned it earlier, but it does feel weird where like lately the last couple of episodes, minus like the few like shitty ones we squeezed in between, but a lot of the newer stuff we've been doing recently was like these really big, fresh, just like amazing movies that we had a lot to gush about. And I do think this is a movie I like. Like I'm not being negative on it, but it definitely is like a step down, like in terms of quality wise, from the other ones we've done. But
it's not trying to be anything other than a B movie, right? That's what it is.
Exactly.
It's an animal killing people one by one, and people try to survive. Mm-hmm. That's it. Like there's things that you could do with this where you are trying to say something about, because I think the kind of thing I compare it to is when people saw the trailer for this, they said, "Oh, someone saw that one great scene in Nope and thought we're going to do a whole movie based around that." But the thing in Nope is that movie had subtext, that had themes. It was talking about how people treat animals and how we try and control nature and how nature will eventually fight back and it'll sort of show us that we're not in control. This movie's not saying any of that. This movie's not doing a goddamn thing with any of that. It's just because I agree, a chimp doesn't necessarily need a reason to attack someone. The way this one goes on, like, I know I'm going to kill everyone. It probably does need a reason, because it's very much like, no. I have got a bloodlust and I am going to go after every single human being in the vicinity, despite the fact that seemingly he's had a quite nice life taken care of by humans and whatnot. But anyway, but what do I think of Primate? I guess I should probably answer about now. I had an okay time. I think it's a decent movie for what it is. It does have a couple of particularly good kills that are gory, right? And those stuck out quite heavily. It does make some of the other ones a bit disappointing though, because the ones that aren't like that are like, where's the brutality of these other two that I really liked? But it is 90 minutes. It does not overstay its welcome, like you said. It's fairly brisk. It gets to the point. The characters aren't aggressively annoying. I wouldn't say they're particularly great either. They're kind of just, they're serviceable, and that's about it.
They don't annoy me, but they're also like don't stick out in your mind as being like, oh, these are cool characters that I like have a fondness for. But I mean, it's better than like a lot of generic movies where you just want to kill the main character because they're just annoying the shit out of you or whatever. Yeah.
Like they're not irritating or anything, but they're not likable particularly either. They're kind of in neutral territory. So it does some interesting little setups and payoffs, which are good. It makes use of the sense of geography. It's all kind of set at this house and the surrounding area, so they kind of, for example, if a window gets smashed at one point and then there's broken glass lying around for when someone is trying to sneak around later on their bare feet kind of thing. It's like, oh, that was set up, it's paid off, it makes sense. So it's okay. It's an okay movie, bordering on kind of fun for what it is. But it is definitely a B movie, and its biggest strength is probably never trying to be anything else than that. And honestly, it might be the best movie this director's made so far, that being Johannes Roberts, who previously made the 47 Meters Down movies. He made Strangers Pray at Night, The Other Side of the Door, which I remember being dreadful, and he made Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which was a mess. Let's just call it what it was. It was a goddamn mess.
At this point, the Zach Cregger movie is not out, so I'll still say he did make the best Resident Evil movie to date. So
that is a technicality, but sure. I guess we can agree on that. I think this is the only one of these movies that I think I'm like interested in watching again at some point, right? Which is that's a win. Take the win.
Roberts he's interesting to me because I don't think he's necessarily he's not great, but I think some of the stuff is like okay / good. So I don't know, but like it's I don't know, like he doesn't like annoy me or like I guess if I hear he's doing something, I'm not necessarily like pumping my fist like yeah, but like also I don't know, I definitely don't find him like as annoying or as bad as like a lot of other horror directors, where like you're Jeff Ludlow's or whatever, where you're like, oh no, please, like why are you doing this movie
Sure,
or
but
something?
I'm definitely not excited if Johann Roberts is making a movie. Like, it's not moving the needle at all.
Yeah,
Like, it's apathy more than anything.
Yeah, like I don't know, I don't want to sound like dismissive or something, but like in a way, like I'm kind of rooting for him because like I feel like there is effort, and even in the movies that like aren't great, like there's sometimes like I'll see like some potential or something like in this movie, like there are instances where it's like, okay, I see like where you're trying to do something with like atmosphere here, or like okay, like you're lighting this scene kind of cool, or and I remember like instances like that with like something like Strangers Prey at Night, which again I don't think was like a great movie or anything, but I remember that, like every now and again there'd be a sequence be like, okay, this is kind of cool or looks like a little interesting. So yeah, it's I don't know, like maybe someday he can like get over or something, but I don't know, like I kind of want to root for him. Like maybe if things are steadily getting better, maybe again probably won't ever have something that's like amazing or whatever, but maybe it'll be like something at some point that can be somewhat excited for. But I agree, though. I think this is definitely his best movie to date.
Yeah. Which I don't want to sound too positive either, because it's not like, it's a very watchable B movie with some good gore, some okay tense sequences. Honestly, the biggest asset that it has is the way it uses its geography, where it's like, okay, we understand where we are in relation to the house and where the chimp might be at any given time, and it's like, oh, we have to try and sneak past even though he might jump out at us. That's the sort of stuff where it's mostly doing a decent job, and then the violence, the gore, and some of the kills is particularly and delightfully over the top, which I appreciate. So, that's kind of its strengths.
Two things I'll shout out is I like the music in this. It had kind of like a synthy score, to it, which stood out to me. I thought that was cool. And then also, we didn't really mention it yet, but I thought the chimp in this looked really good. I think it's most of, if not all, practical. Like I'm pretty sure it was like mostly a guy in a suit for it, which you can. That definitely goes a long way. Like, this is one thing we didn't really talk about that much when we were kind of tangenting about animal attack movies, or like the bonus stuff. But so much with like animal attack movies now, it's gonna depend on how good the animals look, and if you have like crappy CGI, like it's just gonna really not make the movie stand out. But I thought the chimp looked great in this.
Yeah, I mean, I had no complaints with how the chimp looked. I have to wonder though, like, because the eyes are very expressive and stuff. So I do wonder if like maybe they had like a guy in a suit, but like the face was maybe CG or something, so they could do more expressions or something like that. I mean, I could be wrong, but just the vibe I'm getting based on how expressive it was.
Yeah, if I could be completely wrong, but like maybe like if it was a guy in a suit, but like they had like the face was, what do you call it, like like remote controlled or something, so they could like kind of puppeteer it as well as have an actor inside, possibly, but I'm not sure.
Okay, I mean, it seems to say they try to use practical as much as possible at the very least, and you could definitely sense that in the movie. I do wonder though if there was a little touching up of some things, but
yeah, I mean, I feel like very little is ever gonna be like 100% practical anymore. Like CGI is used, like you said, at least to like touch up stuff, which I mean that's probably the way it should be. Like, we don't want like just complete CGI creatures and stuff, but then you kind of marry the two, and that's usually what ends up having the best results.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the chimp looks pretty convincing throughout, which is a big selling point, I suppose, when you do have an animal attack movie, is that you don't just feel like you're seeing some, either these days it'd be a CG thing, or back in the day it'd be like some stupid rubber outfit that just looks really fake the whole time.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, gets points for that as well. It's just, I think just better characters that were more memorable, and maybe like one or two more great kills would have just completely put it over the edge into actual great B movie territory.
I agree with that. Yeah, like I think one of the biggest things is the characters, which again, like what you said, they're not annoying, or you don't really hate them or anything. Even like the one friend that's like kind of like supposed to be the kind of like the annoying one, or the one you kind of roll your eyes out, like even them, like I didn't find to be like that, like bothersome. Like I still like the character. So but yeah, if there was something that they could maybe just put them a little bit over the top and have them be a bit more fun or a bit more memorable,
or even if you're not going to do something a little bit more fun with like making them more more of a caricature, then just maybe something that's a bit more defined as relationship arcs go, where it kind of felt like there was maybe the start of setting something up where like, oh, this is how these two are going to bond through the trauma of what's happening, but it never really felt like there was like a moment where that paid off or anything.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. And then I like the kills and the gore as is, but like you said, if you just get maybe one or two really good ones or memorable ones, that could really help out with it. Yeah,
because there's two very memorable ones, but I think if there was maybe a couple more, it would have really set things apart here. As it is, it's a perfectly watchable movie. It's if you want something light, you don't want something that's going to be taxing your brain, and just something that may be a little bit fun, then this will fit the bill. And no more, no less, and just that's how it is. So I think we can probably get into spoilers then, which in a movie like this is basically just like, okay, who's living, who's dying, and in what ways do they die. But spoilers have been warned regardless, so let's get into it. So the family in this movie live in Hawaii, and the I guess college age daughter of so it's just like a single dad who his wife died of whatever in the last couple of years, and he's got a college age daughter named Lucy who's coming home for the summer, I think. I guess it is, I don't know,
something.
And there's a younger sister character as well who is, I think, Erin, and she is, she's a bit pissed at her older sister because she's not really visited since she went away for college. And I'm like, that seems kind of normal if like she has to take a plane to get home. I feel like she wouldn't be popping back for a weekend. Right, yeah. But hey, whatever. I guess she's bored because there's no one else around. Because they live, so it's a very rich family. The dad's like a writer or something like that, and they've got this big like cliff facing house where the swimming pool outside's like down and cut into the cliff. So it's like a really unique location, which is good for a visual perspective, but it's also like, oh, you rich bastards, is kind of also something you might be thinking as you see this, because I think initially when I saw the house and I was like, okay, it's all these rich characters, there's going to be like a humbling of their, but it doesn't do anything like that. This movie doesn't even like really draw attention to the fact that this is rich people that are in this predicament. It just kind of, no, this is just, we want a nice location, so they're rich. Deal with it.
Well, I mean, I guess you didn't pick up on it, but obviously the chimp represented capitalism, so.
Ha 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 ha. Very good, Tim. Very good. So, actually, the movie actually opens with text explaining what rabies is, but it does it in a way where I didn't realize it was talking about rabies until it said rabies, because it talked about hydrophobia. Yeah. And I'm like, hydrophobia? It's like, oh, this has been around for thousands of years. And like, what are you setting up? And it's like, today we know it by its more common name, rabies. And I'm like, oh, just say rabies. You don't have to get you made it sound all mystical, like, oh, this is an ancient thing that's, spreads around and causes animals to get murderous. Like, all right, whatever.
That is kind of like, rabies is kind of like interesting. Like, I can see how it like lends itself to like horror movies, because I knew there was something about it that like it made like animals not want to drink or have trouble drinking or something, but I mean, if this opening text is to be believed, I didn't realize that like it literally makes them afraid of water. Like, I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting if that's like part of it.
Yeah, which is funny because they point that out in this opening text that they're afraid of water, and I'm not sure if that part's true. Like, I know they can't have water; it effectively makes them allergic to water, and that's why rabies is like deadly. But it says that, which is why I think it's weird later, where when they go to the pool for refuge, they literally say out loud, "He can't swim. Let's go to the pool," and I'm like, so you didn't need to tell us that he'd be scared of water then, if it's just as simple as he can't swim, so he wouldn't go in anyway. The other thing this opening text says, which I think is interesting, is that it says that rabies can be treated if you get to it quick enough. Like, if you get treated for it within 48 hours of getting rabies, you'll be okay. But after 48 hours, that's it. They're a goner. And I thought that was going to play into something, because later on in the movie, when the younger sister gets bit, I thought, oh, we have a 48-hour clock to get her help, and that's going to be like a driving force, a ticking time clock over the course of the rest of the movie. And the movie just takes place in the rest of that night. We don't even get to daylight, so it never becomes like we're worried about getting her to hospital in time. Although, to be fair, I don't think any of the characters ever know it's a 2-day time limit. I don't think they know that. We know that because the opening text told us, but the characters never say, I think we have 48 hours to save your sister. Tick tock, tick tock. So that never really. So I think this opening text was stupid. I don't think it needed to be there, and I think the things that it actually sets up, in a way, almost like make you think other things are going to happen because of it's made a point of telling you these things, and it doesn't matter for the rest of the movie anything that it tells you here.
Yeah, no, it's very strange because we all know what rabies are, so. Yeah, we can just learn through the movie that, the chimp gets infected with rabies, so we know that's why it's acting like that. We don't need this extra information. And then I could be wrong, but I believe that chimps can't swim because they're so much of their body is muscle that they would actually just kind of like sink.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Which again, like I mean, someone can I'm sure our zoologist listeners can weigh in on the comments if that's true or not. But yeah, if that is, then it's like that's just another case of like, oh yeah, we don't need the rabies information when that would have just been how it was naturally. Like, like that doesn't really come into the rabies specifically doesn't come into play in effect. It's not going in the water or whatever.
Yeah. So a couple of weird details there. And honestly, though, I would have probably given this movie way more points if the sister actually went feral. Like, if she actually went full rabies. And even though it wouldn't be realistic, I'm not saying this would be an accurate portrayal. I'm just saying if the movie chose to have her turn into like a maniac for the third act, I would have been like 10 out of 10, instant classic.
Well, I mean, a great ending would be like if it's the end of the movie and she gets some type of weapon like a gun or something and she's pointing it at Ben, and then like at the last second she turns around and points it at her sister instead, and she's like, oh no, I'm joining his side now. And then they become like a feral duo.
Yes. Ben is the name of the chimp for anyone who is listening to this without having watched the movie, just in case that sounded weird. He just said Ben, pointed at Ben. So anyway, that's the opening text at the start, and there's stuff to get into. But yeah, we see Lucy coming home. Her best friend.
I mean, you're skipping a big part.
Oh, of course, yeah. Well, this is actually the other weird thing, is that this scene that actually starts the movie doesn't you can tell they just put it at the start because they wanted to give the audience a horror scene, because they didn't want them to wait until the actual horror stuff starts. But to be honest, it's not that long until we get to the point where it would take place, because it's literally from later in the movie So because you see like this guy arriving who turns out to be a vet who's coming to check on Ben the chimp. Like we see him arriving later on, and it just gives you that scene at the start of the movie, and we see his death at the start, and it's just, and when we got to that scene later, I was like, oh, this was just going to be the first death anyway. This wasn't like, I don't know. Yeah. It felt like, you know what, you can trust the audience to wait 15, 20 minutes, right, for shit to go down. It would be okay. But that said, though, the surprising, like, because he gets grabbed, obviously, and he gets pulled out of the darkness, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's typical opening kill stuff. And then it cuts to a shot of his like face being ripped off, and he sees skull, and I'm like, okay, that was actually gnarly as hell. All right, movie, you've set me up for something here. On you go.
And I'll give it props. Like it's obviously CGI, but I thought it looked pretty good.
Yeah, it's in a lot of darkness as well, which helps it a little bit, and so on. But like I was saying, I was expecting just to be pulled into the darkness and maybe a scream, and that's it, right? Because, and not even that would indicate that the rest of the movie would be that like restrained, but just that it would be normal for the first kill at the start of the movie that's teasing the rest to like hold back, so you're just getting a taste of it, but you're not actually showing them the goods. But this arguably is the best kill. Arguably, there's one that fights it later on, but I mean, it was a strong visual. It made me go, oh, you know what, I guess it worked in making me go, oh, this might not suck, right? That was my response. I was like, oh, this might not suck, but I saw that visual. So fair play. But so the sister's flying home. She's with her friend Kate. Her friend Kate is invited a third girl who Lucy doesn't like that much, named Hannah, who's a bit extra and like, you know, I don't know, she's just, you know, extra flirty, extra loud, I guess.
She's like a little annoying, but I do kind of like that it was in a bit more realistic way than I feel like, you know, in a lot of these movies, especially like in comedies and stuff, where they'll always have like kind of the one asshole friend. But like, it's always weird to me because it's like, it'll be like a friend that's like constantly like swearing at you and like hitting you in the balls and stuff, and it's like supposed to be so funny, but I'm always like, why would they ever be friends with this person in real life? Like, this is just a horrible person. You know, like I thought this was like a more realistic version of like the kind of annoying friend.
Sure, yeah, she's not too over the top. The most over the top thing she does is probably right in this plane scene where she makes Lucy switch seat, because technically that middle seat's my seat. And it's like, okay, you're just being anal. You're just being anal by making her switch seat. But yeah, you know, other than that, everything's pretty down to earth.
And then another important detail here is they bump into two of the most annoying boys in the world who will come into play later. Yeah, basically the movie knows that they need more people to kill later on. So it's like, hey, these two guys that can show up like in an hour's time to just get killed. So we'll come back to them later, but yes, apparently the Hannah flirted with them a little bit. I'll be honest, like, I'm saying Hannah. I don't think I noticed her name was Hannah the entire time in the movie. I'm just reading it from IMDb and being like, yeah, I'll take your word for it, internet, that was her name, but I don't, even Kate as well, to be honest, like, I don't think I caught any of their names. The only name I caught really was Lucy and Ben, and I think that was it. Yeah, I mean, they're just kind of generic names, and then, again, the characters don't leave a huge impression, so it's easily forgettable. Yeah, but you know, they're home, they're all going to stay at the place. The dad, who's deaf and uses sign language, which, that's what, actually, you know, I am finding things to nitpick here, actually, because I thought, for sure, like, if you're going to set up that this character is deaf and uses sign language, and more importantly, that he's obviously both of his daughters can also use sign language and communicate with him, right? Now, it is used in one way later on when he comes back and he can't hear anything that's happening, right? But we'll get to that later. So it is used in that sense. But I thought for sure that the two sisters were going to use sign language to communicate in silence, like during like a pivotal, you know, tense sequence when they're trying to sneak past the chimp or something. And it never comes up. They never use sign language to be quiet at any point. And I thought that was like such a weird misuse of something they'd set up, which seemed like it had a good practical use later on. I thought that was kind of surprising as well. Yeah. Or like, I thought maybe that like the chimp would know sign language too, because like, you know, you always see those things about like chimps are gorillas, but But no, he doesn't even need to use it because he has his own soundboard. And so it's like, oh, even the chimp's not using it.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be the trick, and maybe give them the advantage over the other characters because they can communicate without being noisy. But it never comes back around, sadly. So yeah, but yeah, the dad's like shockingly cool with like, hey, yeah, like, you know, these two girls can stay, as well as the other main character we get introduced to is Kate's brother, who lives here and still lives like around in this area. He's staying over as well. And not only is the dad cool with this, now to be fair, his older daughter's college age now, not a high schooler, right? But, you know, he's got a younger daughter there too. Not only is he cool with this happening, he even says, oh, hey, he broke up with his girlfriend. You've got a shot now, daughter. You give it your shot, Lucy. And she's like, oh, shut up, Dad. Like, because she has a crush on him, right? So Lucy has a crush on Nick, the brother of Kate. But Nick seems to attract the attention of Hannah, which I thought was also going to be like, oh, this is going to be their story, is that she makes moves on Nick. They seem to hit it off. This is going to make Lucy hate her even more. So that in a pivotal moment when Hannah, you know, saves Lucy and they bond and they're there for each other and the friendship actually becomes real at a certain point, that'll be more of a payoff. And while there is technically a moment where Hannah does like jump out and help later on, it doesn't play as a big like, oh, she's like saving the day and this is like the friendship's, you know, being solidified kind of moment. It never feels like they really do anything with it. So all of this setup of like the animosity or like the weird feelings between them never really, like, once the chimp stuff starts happening, it's like every character thing we set up before that is just forgotten about. You know, it's just all gone.
I think what you're getting at here is that, like, yeah, there's a lot of, like, the movie, I guess, is better at setup than it is payoff necessarily. Like, I don't know, maybe just as savvy moviegoers, we're just like seeing this stuff and being like, okay, like surely this will come into play later, and then it's kind of weird that a lot of this stuff doesn't.
Yeah. I'm realizing as we're talking about it just how much it sets, like, seemingly set up that it just doesn't do anything with, both in terms of like, you know, the sign language is like a sort of like a mechanical thing they can use in a scene, or this character stuff where it's like, oh, this can have a payoff later, and maybe make a death more tragic because they've actually bonded by the time one of them dies. But Lucy doesn't even get to see Hannah die. That happens like away from everyone else. No one sees it. So it's not even like, oh, I actually care about Hannah now, so I'm sad she's dying. There's not even a moment where she finds out she's dead. She doesn't. It's not like she finds the body and goes like, "Oh no, Hannah died." We never get that moment. So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, they're just kind of, they're hanging around, they're drinking, it's whatever. But there's like one scene with Ben the chimp where he's really like friendly and cool, and Hannah's weirded out by the fact there's a chimp around. But you know, he's nice. He shakes her hand, and it's all kind of sweet. I was almost surprised by how quickly things went wrong. But like, it's almost like the second scene that the chimp's in, where he's already acting a little bit weird. So they notice the bite mark in his arm. The dad puts him back in the cage outside, sees the dead. I don't remember what the animal was, but some animal. Mongoose. There you go. Mongoose. It had bit him clearly. So he's like, "Hey, leave the chimp in the cage outside. I'm going to send this mongoose into the vet lab for testing, just in case, you know, it had something that might, you know, spread to him." But he's going away for the weekend for a book signing. He's got stuff to do for his job, so he's leaving everyone on their own. And yeah, that's the table's set for everything that's going to happen.
One thing that's kind of interesting, which I never really thought about before, but you know, they mentioned that they're not really concerned about rabies because Hawaii is like a rabies-free island. Yeah, and I thought that was interesting because, like, oh yeah, I guess I never thought about it, but like, oh, since it is like its own secluded, you know, place, like, you know, if there's never any infected animals like on there, then yeah, you would just not have to worry about those diseases or whatever. So I thought that was like an interesting fact. But then it's another weird thing that's like, okay, you brought that up, but then how was this like the first rabies animal to like come to the island or something? Like, how did that get there then?
It's stuck aboard a plane, or I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of. I mean, can birds spread rabies? Because I feel like you know, birds would be flying into Hawaii and stuff. You know? I don't know.
Possibly. I'm not. That's a good question. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because I know New Zealand, for example, has a lot of strict rules about bringing in creatures because they're very like, hey, we've got a pretty good ecosystem going here. We don't want to mess it up with introducing, certain diseases or whatever. I imagine Hawaii might have a similar kind of like, hey, you can't just bring your pet because it has to be, vetted and all that before we can let it in.
That makes sense. Another thing that's kind of funny is, like you were saying, like Hannah gets freaked out that there is a chimp there, which I think if you have a pet chimp, you definitely have to let people know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They come into the house. Also, like, I feel like, I mean, maybe most people aren't like, sickos who, read about or watch documentaries on like these animal attacks and stories and everything, but I feel like most people have heard about like, oh yeah, that pet chimp that ripped off that person's face or that went crazy or whatever. So like I feel like at no point do the people ever try to calm her down and say like, oh, we know that some people think chimps are dangerous, but here's why this one is different or whatever. Like they're never like, they're just like, no, we have a chimp, and we're not even going to explain why that's okay.
Yeah, which that beg the question, like, how legal is this? Like, is this an okay thing? Like,
I'm pretty sure it's not. I mean, I say that, but there was that whole documentary series on HBO called Chimp Crazy about people that like have chimps as pets, and then I'm not sure if it's like a state by state thing or like because there's this whole like through line thing about this woman that had a pet chimp, and then like she's eventually like PETA was going after her, and then there's a court case, and then she had to get rid of it, but then she like secretly didn't. But I don't know if that's like one of those things where it's like yeah, technically you can have one, but if you get caught, you'll probably have to give it up. You know what I mean? Not sure. And I guess in this case, too, they mentioned that it was part of I think the dead mom like was doing some type of like research or something about it. So it was probably like, a part of that research in some way, which maybe gives them some leeway.
Yeah, so it's most states it's strictly banned. There's some where it's allowed but heavily regulated. I literally found a website where it's like technically allowed in Alabama, but it's more like there's just not a law that specifically prohibits it, but like they're not going to be happy about it. Alaska banned, Arizona banned, Arkansas banned. I'm not going to read them all, obviously, but for the sake of this movie, though, let's scroll down to Hawaii. It's alphabetical order. Hawaii. Oh, funny that banned. It's even banned for zoos in Hawaii. So
interesting.
Yeah, there you go. That's interesting. Now, to be fair, they do say that the mum brought the chimp home because it was a chimp that was being used for I'm going to say testing, but when I say that, you're going to think bad things. It was testing for like communication, so the mum was like sort of trying to do linguistics with it. So not a cruel testing in the traditional sense.
Yeah, and I'm guessing because of like her research status with it or something that gave it some leeway.
Yeah. I do wonder though if bringing it home was still a bit of a no-no, just kind of like Rise of the Planet of the Apes when Franco just decides to bring a chimp home. Like it's kind of off the books and like sneaky.
There's an interesting documentary. I forget what it was called, but there is a scientist who they wanted to do an experiment to see what would happen if he raised a chimp as like a human. So basically they had like this family that like adopted a chimp, and then they would call it by name, and then dress it in human clothes and have it sleep in like a human room and play with the brothers and sisters, and they grew very attached to it, and of course it like is good for a few years, and then it hits puberty and like goes crazy and attacks everyone. But I remember that kind of being like an interesting story.
Yeah, I also found a map here for legalities in the US for owning a monkey, which is not the exact same thing, obviously. But like some states are just like, no, of course you're not allowed to have a monkey, including your state, Tim. So you're not allowed to monkey. But there's some where it's like it's okay, but you need to have a lot of paperwork and lots of insurance. There's some where it's like, yeah, go for it, we don't care. And then there's ones where, yeah, you can have a monkey, but definitely no ape. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It varies from state to state quite wildly here, by the looks of it.
I'm not sure if they're still around, but I think there's like a story about a town in Florida that were shooting a movie with monkeys, and they all got out, and like they all just kind of live in like this one town now. so I guess that can be kind of dangerous. Like, actually, there's a place. I think it's up in. I forget if it's like Morro Bay or Cambria, but the Hearst estate, William Randolph Hearst or whatever, he has like this big mansion, up in like the middle of California, and he had like his own little private zoo, and there's a big like earthquake or fire or something, and like a lot of the animals got free, and I think some of them they tracked down and stuff, but there was some zebras that escaped, and they kind of just like started living in the wild now. So it's kind of weird because we drive up there like every now and again, like for vacation. Sometimes we'll spend a week like down in that area, and then sometimes you'll be driving down the highway, and if you're in that area, like every now and again you might look over and just see like a random zebra. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't even know where you go to find a native zebra. I assume Africa, maybe, but
yeah.
like I can't imagine just seeing a zebra in the wild and being like, oh.
I feel like I've also seen like TikToks before where or like random videos or something where like zookeepers have said that like zebras are one of the like worst animals at the zoo, that they can be very aggressive and they cause a lot of injuries.
Really? That's funny, because you would just assume they're like horses, but I guess not.
Right, yeah. I guess there's a reason why we don't ride zebras like we do horses.
Oh, they're having none of it. They're like, no, you get off me. I'm not having a second of this. I'm going to stomp your face into the ground, human. Anyway, back to. I
mean, that's another animal that hasn't. Zebras haven't really had their horror.
Oh, sure, of course. But yeah, back to Primate though. So, basically, everything kicks off when the vet guy comes by to check on Ben the chimp, and he rips his face off, as we saw at the opening. And from there, there's some like tense one-on-one scenes where like I think it's Hannah's the one that sort of sees him next to the pool, and it's all kind of weird and creepy. Mm-hmm. And she eventually starts like yelling for like help and whatnot. And I think maybe what I wouldn't have predicted before I watched this movie is how much of it's going to take place in this pool, because once like things are getting tense and the chimp's starting to get looking more and more aggressive, and they realize, oh, it's actually going to be a problem. It's like, oh, jump in the pool because you can't swim, and we have like kind of this stalemate where the pool's the safe area and he's at the edge of the pool, and there's some different sort of things that play out with that. One of the big things early on is Nick's death, which is the chimp climbs around to the other side, and the other side is basically like just like a ledge, and then it's a cliff, right? Because the pool's right on the edge. And Nick gets the idea, oh, what if we can push him off? Like that would like, deal with this, and we could get away. And he tries to push him off, and it's
a good idea.
Yeah, it is a good idea, and it looks like it works for a second, but it is a chimp. Chimps are good at climbing and catching onto stuff. So Ben the chimp just grabs him and pulls him over the ledge, and he goes flying to his death. And I do appreciate there's a quick close-up of his head hitting off a rock just for the extra splat of it.
Kind of like in the opening scene where the guy gets dragged into the darkness. You kind of think like, okay, I've seen this before. Yeah, that's probably it. And then, oh no, here's his face getting ripped off. It was kind of like this where when he falls off the cliff, I was like, oh, okay, like I've seen this thing before. That's probably all we're going to see. And then like, oh no, we're going to give you that little bit extra. And then, it just cuts like his face getting smashed on the rocks below.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even sure if I would have preferred that or if I'd have preferred just a slightly like wider shot of his entire body splatting, just the satisfaction of the whole thing.
Right, yeah.
But it's just a fine little punctuation to the fall. They also try call. This is before they go in the water, but they try calling the vet guy, and then they hear his phone ringing like upstairs at the cage, and like, what? He's here. Why is he not answering? This is not good. So there's basically a lot of like, oh, we're trapped in the pool. The sister's been bit in the leg before they all jumped in, which is kind of how they know it's serious. He's getting dangerous, and there's a lot of like, oh, one of her phones is like sitting out there, like near where the chimp is. Like, if we can maybe get to it, we can call for help. And so there's a whole tense sequence of like, I think it's Lucy gets out the pool to try and go and get she actually goes to go get the float at first, so they've got something to kind of like help them, so they don't have to constantly keep trying to stay afloat themselves. But once she slides that in, and she's sort of being like quiet and trying not to disturb the chimp, who's like, he can see her. It's not like he's like distracted or anything. It's more just like, oh, maybe if I don't make any big sudden movements, make any noises, he won't care that I'm moving around. But then she like gets a little bit greedy and sees the phone lying there, and she's like, oh, I'm going to try and get the phone. And she's like creeping towards it. She's trying to get it. And she does almost get to it. The chimp, though, does kind of turn around and start getting rowdy. So one of the other girls, I this is the moment where Hannah kind of steps up and jumps out to try and like draw its attention to the other side for a second and jump back in the pool so that Lucy's got a second to grab the phone. The phone's smashed to kill, though, so they can't dial any numbers. The best they can do is dial the last number that was called, and it's like the two drunk guys, the two idiots who don't take anything they're saying seriously, and before they even get a chance to say anything what's really going on, the chimp has climbed like above the pool and grabs, I think it's Hannah's hair up, and rips a bit of her hair out of her scalp because it's so strong. Which is a good jump scare moment, actually, because you don't really see it coming, because it's kind of in the middle of the phone call and it's just out of nowhere.
Yeah, and you think the pool is like pretty safe territory, so they find like interesting ways to kind of circumvent that. We didn't really mention this, but actually I thought this was one of the craziest parts of the movie. So they earlier, like before all this stuff goes down, and they're all just like hanging out, and
is this
they kind of like dare.
Is this the phone call you're getting at? Yeah, okay, here you go.
Like when they first dare her to call those boys, like, oh, why don't you call those boys that you like? She's like, and she's kind of like, oh, like, like a dare. She's like, oh, okay, yeah, fine, I'll do it. I forget. I think it's what is it, Hannah that's staring?
Well, Lucy tells Hannah to do it because Lucy notices she's flirting with Nikki and doesn't like that. So she's like, hey, why don't you phone those guys that you said were hot on the plane? This is she's trying to like drive a wedge over this attraction she can see formulating, and Hannah, quick on her feet, is like, why don't you do it? And she's like, fine, I will. And yeah, it's like, so she calls the number and she gets the voicemail, and she just kind of says like, hey, we're like really horny and we're just ready to be like banged by you boys, so come on. And she actually gives the address at the end, and it's like, that was bold. And then the phone rings and she assumes it's them calling back, and she says, hey, it's the whorehouse. And then it's like Kate's mum who's calling for like, I don't know, some reason.
Yeah. Like, this is just insane that anyone would do this, like, in this day and age where, like, there's so many stories about, like, like, dangerous guys.
Yeah, like I would have, I would have completely bought it if she didn't give the address at the end. Because if it was just the phone call, and I'm like, oh, we're never going to actually see them, it's fine. I'll say the dumb thing. I'll say something stupid. But because she gives the address at the end, I'm like, what? Really? You're giving them the directions?
Yeah, like you're just inviting like strangers you don't know to come to your house and saying like you want to have sex with them, like. And like, yeah, who knows if they'll think like, you're kidding or not. Like, so it's such like a weird move.
Or how upset they might be if they arrive and then find out it wasn't as serious as they were hoping.
Exactly. Yeah. It's such like a recipe for trouble.
But in horror movie logic, though, the purpose of this is just so they show up later to get killed, which is so good for us.
Exactly. Yeah. But I just feel like I mean, again, I'm nitpicking it like way too much because again, it's a dumb B movie or whatever. But I feel like you still could have had the boys come over if you just told them you're having like a party or something and say, "Hey, you want to stop by?" Like,
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
like but whatever. But I mean, you know, it is kind of and skipping ahead a little bit. So obviously, like you said, they end up calling them back and they're all like drunk or whatever, don't believe what they're saying, but they're like, oh yeah, we'll come over. So they do end up coming, and then what's crazy to me is like
The way they just walk in
over
and start snooping around to
Yeah.
their heart's content.
yeah, like it would be one thing if you went over and all the lights were on and there were people there talking and music playing and having a party, so you're like, oh, it's a party, I'll just come on in. But like you come into a house in the middle of the night and it's just like deadly quiet. Like your first instinct is like, yeah, let me just go in. And I mean, again, I'm assuming that they're like, they seem like party boys, so they're probably drunk or high or whatever. But still, it's like, come on.
Yeah, they go and help themselves to something out the fridge. They're like, let's go try and find wherever these girls are. And like, so the one guy,
Let's just go to their bedrooms. Start there.
the one guy goes upstairs to Lucy's bedroom and like, and the one thing it did set up here that they do pay off is early on in this bedroom, I noticed the bed had one of those like curtains around it, the sort of like see-through kind of material, and I was like, oh, that's definitely going to be a thing later for a scare. We're going to see the chimp standing behind it, and it's this guy who's like lying in her bed, and I'm like, he's like a minute away from like sniffing her panties or something, whatever he's going to be doing.
Yes.
But he's lying in her bed, right? Again, this stranger who's come into her house without even saying hello or finding her. He's lying in her bed, and the chimp's there behind the curtain. It's kind of growling and staring at him, and he gets all and he tries to like talk him down and whatever, and the chimp is getting on top of him, and he makes a couple of like awkward, nervous jokes about it, but ultimately, this is the other good death in the movie, because the chimp just puts his hand in the guy's mouth and just rips the jaw off. And I think my favorite part of it, obviously the effect of it coming off is good, but it's the fact that he's clearly still alive, looking up at the chimp, sort of like looking and sniffing at his jaw and his hand. He's able to witness this. He's aware of it while he's still alive for a minute, and I thought that was just particularly cruel. So great.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And then, I mean, it's hard to tell if these guys are just stupid or particularly like malicious. Like they seem like boneheads, but who knows if they're like I don't know if they deserve this level of torture, but it's still, I mean, they're also kind of dickish. Like we don't really care about them dying, so it's a fun death. And then it is particularly cruel and nasty. And there's like some good like lighting stuff going on. Like the whole room is like very red and stuff. It's kind of a cool effect.
Yeah, the other guy, his death is not as special. Like he kind of like has a bit of like a dodging match with the chimp outside, but ultimately just gets his head bashed in. But you don't really like focus on it. It kind of happens in the background while the girls are doing stuff, because they now realize that there's someone, because they've basically fallen asleep on the little float because they've been in there for so long in the pool. That said, though, we should go back, because before the guys show up, there is a death before then. So the best friend Kate dies. Now, this happens because after a while they realize the chimp is gone, and it's like, hey, my phone's up in my bedroom, I'm going to go try and get it. And like Lucy's going to go on her own, and obviously we're going to get the creeping around, try to be quiet, trying not to get killed, we don't know where the chimp is. Obvious recipe for horror. And Kate's like, I'm not letting you go alone, I'm coming with you. So we get them sneaking around, and bizarrely, when one of them goes to pick up a phone that's in the living room, it turns on the TV, which was a little bit contrived, but the TV turns on, which is obviously going to alert the chimp that stuff's happening. So they hide in the closet, so there's a lot of like looking through the little blinds in the closet and seeing the chimp go around. So decent tension, works well enough. And then when they do kind of run out, they're able to close the screen door, the glass door behind them, and hold it shut. And the chimp's sort of banging on it, but isn't going to break through. But eventually sort of walks back into the room and like takes a runner at it, and that gives it enough like leverage to go through the window, and this breaks the glass, which is notable because later on when characters are sneaking around in their bare feet, it's like, oh shit, like all this glass is hanging around, because So, I mean, basically, this just all ends with Kate getting her head bashed in the stairs when they're running back down to the pool, trying to like get back to the safety. But Hannah, after the boys have been and they've died, Hannah's like, I'm going to try and, go and get away. I'm going to...
While he's distracted.
Yeah. He's distracted right now, killing this one guy. I'm going to make a run for it. And she gets to her car keys. She runs out, jumps in the car. And while this is kind of a dumb thing, I actually love this reveal that she went in the wrong car because she tries to put the key in.
Yeah, it's really funny. Yeah.
She tries to put the key in and it's not working. And then she looks over out the window, sees the other car, and she looks in the back seat and sees a bunch of like trash. And we were like, oh, this is the dumb guy's car who just arrived. Yeah. And she looks over and she hits the button to unlock, and you see the other car's lights flash, and it's like, oh no. She has to like make it across because she got to the car. She was like scot-free to go and get help. And she still has her phone though, so she tries phoning police. Now, I will say this did frustrate me, how little information this stupid character does not give to the operator when she's trying to explain her. Like, it takes her so long in the conversation to even say it's a chimp. She just keeps saying, he's killed us, he's trying to kill me, you gotta come, I don't know the address. I feel like saying it's a chimp would be a really useful bit of information that they might need to know.
Do you think it's the one house of that famous guy that lives here that has a chimp? Do you think it could be there?
Yeah, at the very least, she knows who lives here. She could at least say the name of the person who owns the house. Right, that would be something. But she's like, hey, could you... Because I buy that she doesn't remember the address because she's came here with friends. She's heard it be said once or twice, but she's not memorized it. I believe that. I totally do. But the way it takes her so... Like, she just sort of says the same thing over and over again. Like, after... Like, the lady's asking her questions, and she just keeps repeating the same thing, and I'm like, oh my god, you're giving them nothing to work with here. Give them something to go on. But yeah, this is the creepy scene of like the chimp's trying to like get in, because the chimp's got her car, or the car keys for this car, and the chimp presses the button to unlock it, and she has to keep locking it again from the inside. And then eventually you get the creepy bit where the boot, or sorry, the trunk opens in the back, and it's like, oh, the chimp's getting inside, and ultimately gets to her.
Yeah, I thought this whole scene was pretty fun. Like, yeah, ultimately we don't really end up seeing her death, but all the build up to it is is good. And then it is funny because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that Ben does that's like, oh yeah, this is like animalistic thing that he's doing, but like every now and again there's like things like this that it's like, oh, you're like, it feels like you're crossing into like horror movie villain territory where now it's like you're messing with them.
Yeah, I mean, they established that he knows how to use his soundboard, so I guess he's just depressing buttons. I mean, the idea that he would know this would unlock the car is maybe a little, like, oh, you're a bit maybe more smart than you should be, but that's okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm having a good time. Yeah. I'm not like questioning it.
Yeah, I mean, it's darkly funny, so I'm willing to roll with it. So the thing that gets me though, this is the other nitpick thing I want to get at, is that, so at this point it's just the sisters left pretty much, right? The dad, while he's been on his book signing, he gets messages from like the scientist, whoever he sent the mongoose in to check, and she's like, hey, this thing had rabies, and he's like, that doesn't make sense, and he clearly starts to get worried about what might be happening. So he tries to phone his daughter Lucy, but obviously her phone's up in her room, she can't answer it, blah blah blah. He comes home in the third act of this movie, right? He comes home and he comes into the house, and it plays with this idea that he can't hear anything. So he can't hear that Lucy's literally been attacked by the chimp outside. She's trying to protect her sister and she's screaming. She's taking some hits, so on and so on. Because I think she came up to, again, look around and try and get her phone or whatever, and the chimp's attacked her, blah, blah, right? And he can't hear it. So he's like sort of just sauntering around. He grabs some things. He goes upstairs to try and find her. I think that because he came home and he clearly looked worried, and he left early to come home and check on them because he was worried about this whole rabies thing. I think it's really weird how like non-panicked he is. Like he just kind of he comes in like he's come home from work, and he's just like, oh, I'll go and get something from the fridge, and I'll go and see if my daughter's okay upstairs. But it doesn't feel like he's like, oh, there could be an emergency. he doesn't have that sense of urgency to him, and I think that's a little bit weird given because given what they've actually already shown us and how he was worried and wanted to come home because he thought something bad might be happening.
Yeah, and it's like, does he have like no one that he could call and ask to, come by the house, or, I don't know if he, I don't know if the, cops would come or something, but if he calls 911 and says like, hey, I'm really worried about my daughter, can someone, check on her or something, like, yeah, it feels like there's like other things that, could possibly do.
Yeah. It feels like there should be like more of a maybe not a panic per se, but like at the very least he should seem hurried. Like he's like, he's anxious to just check and see if everything's okay, and he's kind of lackadaisical about it. And then it's not until he sees the dead body lying in her bed that he kind of like realizes that stuff's going on, and we basically end the movie with a fight between everyone out in the back. Lucy's sort of trying to fight off the chimp. Her sister gets involved at one point. She actually gets another big injury. She gets a big scratch on her back, like a big claw mark going down her back. So the little sister takes a beating here. It's a shame that her character's kind of like, like they set up that she's mad at her big sister for not being here. But honestly, after they make up in the very same scene, it feels like she has no personality for the rest of the movie. There's nothing
other than getting attacked.
Other than getting attacked, yeah, and needing to be the one who, in theory, needs to be saved. But yeah, it's it's a fight. It plays out. The dad tries to fight the chimp, and ultimately is going to get beat up, but stabs it or hits it with a bottle at first, and then there's some stabbings. Of course, the chimp gets back up one last time when they think they've already won, and they're able to kind of like win because it charges at Lucy and goes over the edge. Lucy gets grabbed by her dad, but the chimp goes and lands on like a broken bit of wood that impales him. So he finally dies at the very end. And they let us know that the little sister's going to be okay. She's going into the ambulance because we're in that 48-hour window. The rabies will be okay. It'll be dealt with.
There's a little weird moment at the end here where it's like, okay, happy ending. The sister's all right, and then like, all of a sudden you hear Ben's soundboard again and it says, Lucy, bad.
Yeah.
And
but this is the thing. She turns around obviously scared, like a little jump scare. And it's just like, the police officer's holding it as evidence. And he's obviously hit the button, maybe by accident. Yeah. But it's almost like, the specter of Ben the chimp is still going to haunt you, Lucy.
The scene itself, like, it could be fine. Like, I think maybe it's a little weird the officer pressed the button. But I don't know, maybe he's just like, oh, what does this do or something. But like the way the movie sets it up is like there's such a dramatic turn, and then the music gets so sinister. Is that it makes it feel like, could Ben still be alive? Is his evil still there? Something. And it's like, no, the cop just pressed the button. Like, that's it.
Yeah, but it cuts to black on this moment as if it's like, hey, could the spectre? It was no, because it was never supernatural. Why would we think for a second that there's any threat still from Ben the chimp? It's very, very strange. But the things that the movie does well, though, is the idea of the pool being this safe space and like characters having to try and be brave by leaving the pool to go and get a phone or go get an item or go and save someone else. That stuff's good. Some of the gory deaths are good. I like the fact that the broken window comes into play when like Hannah's like creeping out the house and like she almost like steps in a shard of glass. And then later on, when Lucy's running around, she like does sort of step in some of the glass and is like getting hurt as she's sneaking around. So I like that it uses that stuff. But there, as we pointed out, there was definitely other things that they kind of set up that they could have used, like the sisters using sign language to be quiet at a certain point would have been a very effective use to try and get around the chimp. More of a payoff to the kind of rivalry between Lucy and Hannah in some form. Like, again, something as simple as Lucy seeing that she's dead and feeling sad about it to kind of like say, hey, she cared about her in the end and she's sad that she's gone. But, we never even get a reaction to the fact that she's dead. It's just kind of taken for granted. Oh, yeah, everyone else is probably dead by now. Let's just accept that and move on with our lives.
I mean, it's not like I'm disappointed in the movie at all because, I think it does a good job for what it is as kind of like a, fun little B movie or whatever, but it is a shame because all that stuff you just said, if they just kind of made those few little tweaks to it, then it could have just been like, oh yeah, this is like a decent fun movie, to being like, oh no, this is actually something like that stands out a bit more. So yeah, I mean, I still liked it quite a bit. I'm not
It's
disappointed, but yeah, it could have just easily put itself over the edge if just had a few tweaks here and there.
it's better than I thought it would be. So props for that. But it's obviously still got a lot of things that I can critique and complain about. And I think as far as like fun B movie territory goes, I do think the final fight's maybe a little bit underwhelming. I think,
Yeah.
I think really Lucy should have got a better weapon to maybe have a more of a standoff. Like, whether that be like, I don't know, just like a 2x4 that she's setting fire or something, like, I'm not expecting a chainsaw like Evil Dead, but like, just something that feels a bit more bombastic. Like, no, I'm going to make a stand and try and fight this thing. Would have been good. And yeah, you can sell it as like, oh no, her sister's getting worse, so she's going to take a bigger risk than she would have earlier on in the movie because she's getting really scared about her sister dying. So it's like, okay, that could have justified it, and have her like somehow like grab something she can use as a weapon. Maybe something as simple as I don't know, like a baseball bat with like a nail in it or something. I don't know, like anything to give her maybe a bit of an edge, but which feels like she's taking the initiative. Because it kind of just feels like she's trying to survive. That said, though, there is one cool little moment where she thinks Ben's becoming nice again, where he kind of looks at her all kind of soft, and he steps in and he holds her hand, but after a second he just snaps her wrist. And I was like, okay, that was good. Yeah. That was funny, like in a very dark way, but it was funny. So yeah, so it's not like there was like a great B movie that this doesn't ever become, but it's a solid enough, or at least a very watchable B movie. So take that for what you will.
Yeah.
All right, Tim, what are you rating Primate out of 10?
My brain is saying that this is probably like about a 6, but in my heart, like, I don't know, I love like animal attack movies, maybe as sick as that sounds, and like especially like chimps I always find kind of fascinating, and it really tickled me on like again, like a very like fun B movie kind of level, and I felt like it delivered exactly what it like set out to do and what the trailer promised and stuff. So my heart is feeling that, yeah, like I almost want to go as high as like a 7, but yeah, I don't know if I want to do that or kind of just meet in the middle, do like a 6.5. Maybe it might be a little a little over what it should be, but I think I will go with the 7, even though it might be a bit high. But I don't know, I thought it was really fun. It's a genre that I like, and I think it was pretty well done. And although there are like flaws and everything in it, I don't know, I still feel like it hit a pretty decent level for me. But yeah, so yeah, I guess like ultimately I'm saying like, it's a 7, which is like good, but it's not great.
Yeah, I think I will be going with the 6. I think it's a very watchable 6, because sometimes the 6 can be like, oh, this is like a disappointing because it should be better than this. But sometimes the 6 is just a fun, watchable 6 out of 10, and I think that's what I'm going to land on.
Sure.
With Primate. Has faults. It definitely has some things that could have made it even more fun, but it wasn't a painful watch by any stretch. So, yeah, there you go. That is Primate. Next time on Screams After Midnight, we will be doing another movie from this year. We'll be doing Dolly. We'll see what Dolly's like next time. I got the trailer for this one once, I think, in at the movies, and I think it had a pretty cool kind of like grindhousey, trying to harken back to Texas Chainsaw Times kind of trailer. Whether or not it'll remotely feel like that in the movie, it remains to be seen. But we'll find out. We'll find out. So that is coming next time on Screams After Midnight. You can, of course, support Screams over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV or via YouTube membership and get access to the back catalogue of bonus episodes. And we promise one is coming soonish. We're doing one for Doom Asylum. Also, most weeks we have even more stream segments. During this episode, for example, we recorded like a what's the best animals for animal attack movies discussion. So that'll be up soon, sometime after this episode goes out. But yeah, there's a whole back catalogue of those as well. various different topics, making top fives, all that kind of thing. So if that sounds like fun, you can go get some bonuses. But mainly you're supporting the show and helping make sure it can keep coming. Thanks to everyone who already does. But otherwise, you can like, subscribe, rate us 5 stars on your podcast app. All that stuff does help out as well. So that is the show, everyone. That has been Screams After Midnight. So thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, and we will see you next time.